Good morning, everyone. Myself, Vivek Kudal. I'm the COO and CFO with Baroda BNP Paribas Mutual Fund. And today I'll be discussing in brief about the account aggregation and also how this is relevant in the context of the mutual funds. And we'll kind of also be touching upon the few of the aspects of the mutual funds and how the account aggregations will be a game changer once kind of enabled from an investors or the consumer perspective, but at the same time from the financial institutions perspective also. And in the slides, I will also kind of touch upon how this is kind of very critical and important for all the relevant stakeholders. So I'll just kind of go into the presentation. So just to kind of set the context on the account aggregation, and then will come how within the mutual fund it plays a critical role. So in a financial services domain, the account aggregation is a technique that involves the collection of the customer or the investor data from the multiple sources, then processing and presenting in a manner by which it will be useful from an investor's point of view. This will then also be useful from the financial institution's perspective. And it's an initiative by the RBI is in order to ensure that there is a financial inclusion and also a good enabler for the people to kind of further optimize on their investments or their financial journey, to kind of empower them and enable them with the data points in terms of having all their investments in the mutual funds, in the insurance, the bank accounts, all those details at one place. And when the financial institutions are also, or the financial advisors are suggesting them, it will also be a good enabler that all this information of the investors at all one place. So this includes such as the loan, the credit accounts, the savings, investment accounts, as I said, in the mutual funds, the demat accounts, the information, the insurance policies, even their income tax returns as we go along. So all this information will then, basis the consent of the customer or the investor, will kind of be assembled or stacked at one place, by which then again, in a very secured manner, once the investor kind of provides his explicit consent, will then be consumed by the financial institutions and will kind of go to certain terms which the account aggregation ecosystem is using to simplify the whole concept. What happens is that the data, as I said, from various financial information providers can be crucial for the financial inclusion and to build the better product and the servicing. So today, say, or say historically, an investor has to kind of run himself, or the customer has to run himself to identify or to kind of gather all the investments he has made or the insurance policies he's carrying, because these are the different financial institutions who are communicating with the investors on a one-on-one basis and at a point in time. So it's the onus is on the investors in the event he wants to do a financial planning or he wants to go for any loan or things. Then he has to kind of gather all this information, self-certify them, notarize them at times as per the requirement, and then furnish these informations to financial institution. In whole scheme of things, what also was critical and important, that how the investor is sourcing the information and at what time he is kind of really able to gather or get all these informations in the requisite times. At times there's an urgency, exigencies from the investor's perspective, but at the same time there are some timelines from the financial institution's perspective also to process certain things by which then even if it is the advantage of those rates or certain terms and conditions which are applicable during that specified period, say during a season of Diwali, there are certain offers and all those things. So at times, the getting this information is also a very time-bound activity. But the whole concept of account aggregation is moving beyond the traditional asset-based approach of the credit agencies. The account aggregation incorporates the cash flow-based inputs, such as income from the various sources in the tax returns. So if I just kind of take an example of a CIBIL today, right, which kind of, or Experian, which gives an rating on the behavior of the customer in the capital market in terms of his bank accounts and then servicing of those bank accounts, the credit cards, paying them on time, or any dues or any disputes. But and the KYC informations like the static informations of the investors and if the static information is getting updated. And then that's how the credit score of an investor is kind of getting arrived. But the account aggregation is going a step beyond. It also then takes the investments of the investor and bringing all that at one place, by which the first investor will also kind of have a holistic view about his financial investment journey so far. Not only that, but it also kind of gives him a lot of permutations, combinations, which he would have kind of done or driven in past with the help of the financial institutions, that he would have applied or invested or bought certain policies, mutual fund schemes at different point in time, and he would have provided a different set of informations, like he would be having staying at different places in past and all those things, right? With the account aggregation, and there are set of fields which are uniquely being identified and validated, the information is then kind of assembled at one place. But very importantly, this information is assembled at one place and assembled digitally. Not only this, but once it is assembled digitally, an investor provides a consent, then it travels to the financial information user, which is a financial institution. So this kind of then empower or kind of give a rider to financial institutions to have the information by their own eyes, which is a validated and authenticated information. And we'll kind of be further discussing in the subsequent slide. The account aggregator is another NBFC under the RBI, who in turn will be collating and sharing the data, certainly with the consent of the investors with the financial institutions. And in order to ensure that there's a complete transparency and independence, RBI has brought in a third agency in between who will be aggregating an information and then relaying this information basis the explicit confirmation of the investors. So this is in a nutshell an account aggregation ecosystem, wherein earlier the onus was purely on the investors to kind of provide these information, for which he has to run around and get this information from the multiple sources, kind of self-validate or certify, or as required, has to also kind of get it stamped, notarized through various institutions as required, and then to kind of furnish this information to the financial institution for his financial planning, or say kind of opting for any loans and etc. Now, with this account aggregation, again, the prime and the key is the consent of the investor. Why? During the process, the investor is kind of opting for any financial planning or for any new product or new kind of loans, and he provides a consent, then the data flows in a very secured manner to the financial institution. And this is a smooth process as far as the investor goes, because in the back end, it's all API based and is an all automated way by which the account aggregator goes to the institutions, the financial information providers, and kind of take all this informations of this investor basis the certain and the set validations, and then disseminate this information to the FPI, which is FIPs, financial information providers. Moving on to the next slide, and then I'll kind of just spend some time on this because this is very critical and important. And then this is something like the key participants in the entire account aggregation ecosystem. So the first and the foremost is the financial information provider. So there's an investor or there's a customer, right, who has made a lot of investments. And this investment is made through various and multiple FIPs, which is, say, for example, a bank or an asset management company or a depository for the stock trading. There is insurance companies, right? So, for example, if I, as an investor, have made an mutual fund investments with 10 different schemes, with say 4 or 5 different asset management companies as advised by my financial institutions or as per my own research. So then this information is available with multiple FIPs. So the people who are holding this information under this ecosystem is being called as financial information provider, because they in turn would be going to provide this information to the account aggregators, and account aggregators in turn would then be providing this information to the financial institutions, which are called as financial information users. And we'll kind of go into further details. Coming back to the financial information provider. Now, the financial information provider would be acting solely on the request of the customer. And today, as I said, under the traditional mode or the traditional method, the investor goes to the FIPs and asks for the information about their investments and the financial journey. And the FIPs today provide this information to them. In this process, this customer, the same customer, would be providing a consent to the account aggregator that, look, these are my information and I am validating myself, and you please go and talk to the FIP on my behalf digitally and seek all this information which is on a real-time basis. The account aggregator here kind of bases this explicit consent from the investor and the certain credentials of the investor, goes and validates this with the FIPs, and FIPs also has an obligations to validate that the information of mine is provided by the account aggregator is matching with the records, and they in turn will be pushing the information to the account aggregator. Now, account aggregator is in a way a platform which is on the API based, populating the information of the investors and the various streams, be it mutual fund, the insurance policies, or say stock holdings, the bank accounts, and etc. and etc. But the very critical component here is that account aggregator is not supposed to store the information in any manner, and that's why I'm using a technical word and concept and API, that it is going and talking to the financial information provider on a real-time basis and gets the information. It is just kind of then presented or demonstrated on the screen, but nowhere this information is stored. And at any point in time, the investor wish to kind of take away that consent, he has all the options available with him by which he will then kind of be saying that, hey, look, I wanted to share this information, you have shared this information, now I don't want or no longer need these services. And he can kind of opt out for that particular services, and he can kind of opt in at any time he wishes to. Now, the use of the information once it is available at the account aggregators level is by the two set of people. One is the investor or the customer himself, who earlier were kind of going to multiple sources and then kind of adding up all of them to get in a holistic view about his investment journey or his financial investment journey, would be able to kind of see all this at one place, all of this at one place, which kind of helps him a lot to kind of get a sense of an investment he has made, or the insurance policies he has bought, or certain stocks he traded in or invested in earlier. Uh, Probably he was not tracking or was not able to retrieve, will all be available to him at one place, will in turn also help him that in the event of he wishes to look for an financial advisor or the advice, he can kind of pick up this information and then kind of reach out to the financial advisors basis their due diligence. The second key consumer, if I may say so, of this information is the financial information users. And these are again with the customer's explicit consent. They would be kind of consuming this information in a very secure manner, and in turn would be suggesting the best product offering come servicing. So their objective would be twofold as we speak. One is kind of looking at the existing investments of that investor, or the policies, and then the footprints within the financial or the capital market. And then kind of suggesting if they need to kind of recalibrate or optimize any of those investments, the existing investments, but also as per the need of the customer or the investors, they would be suggesting them the best product, given that they will have complete visibility to the investors' entire financial investment and then the journey. So that from the financial institution perspective also, it will be in a credible information traveling to them digitally. It's all in a secured manner, and it is all authenticated by the financial information provider. So from an investor's perspective, once he provided the consent, the information flows on a real-time basis to the financial information users, who in turn can do a best use for the servicing or suggesting the new products to the investor or the customer. But essentially, these are the three key and the critical stakeholders in the entire ecosystems, which we have to just kind of keep in mind. One is the people or the multiple agencies who are holding this information on behalf of the investor, the account aggregator who kind of comes in between the financial information provider and the financial information user. He comes in between that, look, you are the two people, cannot talk to each other. I am the one providing an independent and a secure platform by which you come, basis the investor or the customer's consent, consume this information. This is the kind of and key stakeholders as explained. Moving on to the next slide, which talks about how the data kind of flow among the FIPs, which is financial information provider, the FIUs, which is financial information users. The users here is the investor or the customer, and the account aggregators. Now, if you see on the center, there's an individual, okay, who is requesting the financial information providers, which is on the left-hand side, which can be a bank, a mutual fund house, the insurance providers, the brokerage houses, the tax or the GST platforms, and the other business and the consumer entities. So these are the informations as we were discussing. Are the agencies holding the information or the investment details of the investors for the investments he had made at a multiple point of time, and how do they kind of look alike. Now, once the customer who goes or say go to an account aggregator and provides his explicit consent, then these account aggregators on behalf of the customer, this is the certain information or static information of the customer, goes and gets validated to the FIPs and get these informations on their platform. Now, there can be multiple account aggregator. Yes, there can be a multiple account aggregators. I, as an investor, can opt for the multiple account aggregators as their services. And once I kind of go and register myself, I will be uniquely identified in the system, basis which these account aggregators would be traveling to the FIPs and seeking my information on a real-time basis. Now, from the financial information user perspective, he in turn would also be getting information of the investor, that how an investor of the existing investor or the investor who has provided a consent to them is behaving in a particular life cycle or on a specific events. Suppose and there was a market crash or there was a market event. By kind of consuming this information on a real-time basis, or suppose an investor or a consumer who is into the business and basis certain cycles, how he is kind of behaving with he getting a regular inflows, or how he's managing his investment journeys during a specific time, will or can all be consumed or understood well by the financial information users, who in turn will be able to suggest to them that, okay, if there was a market event or something, you probably kind of invested further in the market, or you stayed away from the market and you looked for an alternate ways to deploy your money for the short term, for the long term. It's like once the data is at one place, or the kind of multiple data of that investor is there, it's like a robo who is analyzing and throwing the multiple scenarios in terms of the behavior of the investors at a different point in time, or maybe same event and how the investor is behaving differently if this event is happening on multiple times. So this is essentially kind of also helps financial information users, which is the financial institutions, to kind of provide a customer centric or a customized product offering, and also at the same time suggest best ways to manage the existing investments of the investors. So this is in turn is an broadly an overflow. One or two things again I would kind of be repeating, given this is a use of technology. But what has been kind of clearly articulated under the guidance note of RBI also, and how this kind of works in a real-time scenario, is the information traveling in a very secured manner to ensure that it serves the purpose it meant for. There is no possibility with the kind of the measures being taken, that there is a very limited or less possibility of data getting compromised, by which from a financial institution perspective, as well as from the investor and customer perspective, it becomes very relevant and critical that the information shared is authentic, and it is kind of and coming with all the validations, and kind of fasten the process on processing or suggesting or servicing the investor or the customer. So while the first is the consent of the investor, which is in the core, then second is the information traveling in an encrypted manner. to ensure that the overall objective and the purpose of this is being served. And then, of course, in order to maintain the independence and the transparency, what has been brought in is these set of service providers, like segregating an account aggregator from the financial information provider and the financial information users. Moving on to the next slide is a use case for the mutual fund or the asset management companies or the mutual fund distributor who then becomes a financial advisor for the investor. And what I have just tried to bring a flavor of an current data sharing practice versus the data sharing practice under the account aggregation ecosystem. Under the current data sharing, as far as the mutual fund goes, that today there are one or two key enablers already in place. However, they are still very different from what the account aggregations would be bringing or doing to the entire ecosystem. So in the current context, say again, if I may pick up the same example, that the investor wanted to look at his financial investments journey or looking for a specific product or an offering or the servicing, he has to go to an register and transfer agent who holds all these mutual fund units, and in turn then would be requesting for the information. So there is now a good part or and a half a journey by which a platform available where an investor can ask for an information and it comes to his registered email ID once he kind of validates himself or herself. So the information comes to him and he then kind of get a complete view about all his investments in the mutual fund industry. And now if he wishes to kind of opt for a financial advisor, then in turn he can kind of share this common account statement, it's called, or the information on across the mutual funds with the distributor or the financial advisor. Now again, the key term here is it's who's providing this information. Investor is providing the information to the financial advisor. And there is also a process existed today wherein the financial institution can directly go to the registrar and transfer agent of the mutual fund and seek the information of the investor. But he can be getting this information only and limited to the investors and of those investors he is servicing to the extent he has advised them in past. So if, for example, I as an investor have made 10 investments through 3 different mutual fund advisors at different point in time. And if a financial advisor today wishes to go and look for the investor's financial journey in the mutual fund, he would be getting the information about those funds which he has advised or investor acted basis his advice, because his unique code is getting captured there. Now, this information comes as and when asked, yes, but this information kind of comes to the limited extent of the association or an advice he has provided to the investor. But he will not kind of get a complete view. And again, his dependency on the investor continues to be there to kind of provide the entire set of information. That's the current practice, wherein the common account statement or all the mutual fund holdings can be viewed or consumed together. However, under the account aggregation ecosystem, there are key changes, and then they are very dynamic changes when we look at the entire ecosystem. Is one that again, it's an investor who is providing the consent, but once the investor provides his consent to an account aggregator to go and talk on his behalf to the financial information providers, and share the information with the financial information users. So the dependency on the users or the customers is very limited. Once he provided the consent, the information is traveled directly to the financial information users, which in the current method, it's dependency on the investor that he has to pick up the information, validate the information, and then provide this information to the financial institution. The second key shift is that once the investor provides the consent, the entire investment universe of the investor travels to the financial institution. So again, if I compare under the current method wherein the financial institution gets the information about the investments which he has advised, but in case of an account aggregation, he'll be getting the information of the investor, irrespective whether he has advised or someone else has advised. Now, it has a multifold benefits. One, very essentially from the investor's perspective, that he gets a complete view of his investment today. Now, from an investor perspective today, he see the cash which has all the mutual fund holdings, and there's another common account statement at the capital market level given by the depository, which includes the holdings in the stocks also. Under the account aggregation, what the investor will get to see is all the mutual fund holdings, the bank account information, balances, the stocks which he's holding, the insurance policies which he's holding. It will kind of give him a much broader view for him to kind of plan his financial activities at any point in time. And this information kind of comes on a real-time basis. The same time, this information helps multifold to the financial information user, that before suggesting a product, he will be able to analyze and look at the journey of the investor or the consumer, that how or what is his footprint when it comes to the bank accounts, mutual funds, insurance companies, or the stocks. And accordingly, he'll be able to customize the offering. But at the same time, he will also be able to kind of very aptly be able to service the customers, that if there's a particular stream he feels or he is in a specific advice or a very strong view, he will kind of be putting it upfront to the investors, which in turn will help investors to take the right decision basis the data and the information available. So again, and then all this with happening so digitally has a multiple benefit to the financial institution who is storing the data, the financial institution who at times can be common, and from storing the data to consuming the data. And from an investor's perspective, he gets a complete holistic view of his entire investment journey beyond, say, mutual funds or beyond the insurance policies or the stock markets and the bank accounts. This kind of is being done in such a secured manner to again comfort the entire ecosystem and the various stakeholders involved, that it kind of then serves the purpose. So this is how I thought I would want to kind of cover the entire ecosystem on the account aggregation, but at the same time, how this kind of becomes very relevant from the investor or the consumer perspective, and at the same time from the financial institution perspective, that how they can kind of be data rich while suggesting or servicing the investor or the customer of theirs. So this is what kind of I've brought today. And I am kind of happy to take any questions or any comments. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you.